I Love Lucy pilot during the last season on radio. She was 6 months pregnant at the time, and we had a rush to get it done.
We just had a little home in San Fernando Valley. We had no intention of going to New York. I said, who's going to New York? So the sponsor said, well, you can't do it in California because all we get here is the kinescope. I said, well, why don't we do it on film? And then everybody will get the same quality.
Then we found out you couldn't use film unless you shot in a studio.
But then CBS came in and said, well, Lucy works better in front of an audience. And they were right. She does work better in front of an audience.
Now, that was impossible because you could not bring an audience into a studio.
So, you know me, out of left field, ignorance is a blessing at times. I said, well, why don't we do it on film in front of an audience? And they said, what is that? Well, I said it, so I figure I better say it like if I knew what I said. I said, the film in front of an audience. He said, you know how to do that? I said, sure. I didn't have the slightest idea about it.
He just did it all. He built the whole thing and saw that everything that we wanted in the innovative department got done.
Can you imagine a guy in the early days of television when everything was kinescope? He insisted on having film. And he had probably one of the best cameramen in the history of movies, Carl Freund.
I did figure that, you know, you do it with 3 cameras like you're doing now, the electronic. Why couldn't you put 3 motion picture cameras, you know, and do it? And that's how it began, out of an accident.
And it became great because of the preservation that was able with the film. Instead of the kinescope, kinescope doesn't last. You couldn't have had reruns, you could have had nothing preserved if everything had gone on being on kinescope.
That's why it's still being shown today.
And Desi Arnaz was just a naturally astute and far-sighted businessman.
In those days, I believe, roughly, each episode with film cost about $5,000 or $6,000 an episode more over and above the other. So Philip Morris said, well, who's going to pay the extra $5,000? We're not. And CBS says, well, we're not. And the story goes, Desi says, tell you what, and he goes, Lucy and I will put up $5,000, but on one condition. What? We own the films. Good. You got them, CBS said.
Desi obviously had the foresight to see what this would mean. And when he was given the opportunity of owning the films, he said, yes, I definitely want to own the films. And he wanted to set up his own production company. And that was really a first. And it led to all kinds of things because we created a separate company, a separate corporate entity called Desi Lou Productions.
It's Desi Arnaz with your tropical trip. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I've always had a great ambition to sing a song on the radio to my daughter. And we're going to make a record of it. And when she grows up, I'll play it for her. And that way she'll have definite proof that her old man sang and that there was a thing called radio. So here it is, specially written for Lucy Desiree Arnaz by her father and Eddie Maxwell. I hope you listen to this. There's a brand new baby at our house, the nicest little gift we've ever had. She's a precious sugar plum and a blessing to her mommy and dad. There's a brand new baby at our house, and though she's been there just a little while, in the parlor, in the hall, every picture on the wall wears a smile.
Deeply, deeply loved her children and wanted them desperately. And your arrival was one of probably the highlight in her life.
I had them very late. My first child was when I was 39. And I was so happy to have them that I was afraid that I would spoil the hell out of them.
She tells me She tells me she waited 10 years to have a child. She wanted to have a baby so much. I was born in 1951, and a month later they started the I Love Lucy show.
We had more fun on the set than we could look forward to at any party in the evening, you know?
Yeah.
At times, we say, we've had so much fun today, we want to go out tonight.
And then the people that work with us, Fred and Ethel, they were just sensational.
I think Lucy and Vivian were like sisters. They got on each other's nerves and they adored each other.
Someone heard about a young lady who was going to be in La Jolla doing a play, so they called me back after the first act of Voice of the Turtle and said, Lucy, sight unseen, take our word for it, this girl is wonderful. I said, that's all I want to hear. We fell in love for the first rehearsal. She was something.
Nobody wanted Bill Fred. The networks didn't want it, the agencies didn't want it. They said he hadn't done anything in a long time. He had a drinking problem. And the more they kept knocking him down, the more I thought he was right for the part.
He was exactly the way he was written. He cared more about baseball and the fights than he did about anything. If his work interfered, to hell with the work. He wasn't there.
And he was one of the most loved characters in the series, really. No place we went in the country. Everybody said, where's Fred? How's Fred?
Everybody was enthusiastic, everybody was working together, and it was fun.
And the only reason they did the show was to stay together. So they went at it for all the right reasons originally.
We thank the Lord, whose love and wondrous powers gave us that brand new baby of ours.
Ed Sullivan is going to do the whole show about us.
These are two people who sought to attain the highest
Yes.
you could possibly attain in this business.
Are you nervous? Nervous?
Why should I be nervous? Are you nervous?
They fought very hard to get to the top, and they made it.
Suddenly taken over was a huge hit, probably the first year, and they were going to the theater. And as they walked in, a little bit before curtain time, he said people started applauding. And he looked around and said, somebody big must have come in. And they looked around and it was for them, and they had no idea. They couldn't believe it.
But his big I Love Lucy is in something like 60 countries.
These are two people who brought so much joy to so many people, and I hear it constantly. Constantly.
If you ever looked at the mail that we got thereafter, thousands of letters from women saying, you saved my marriage. Thousands of letters from men saying, you saved my marriage. It's a love match on the show. I don't care what anybody else says. You cannot fake that inherently on the air.
2 years into I Love Lucy, my mother discovered that she was pregnant again with my brother Desi.
They said, what do we do now? And we all sat down, and Desi said, how about having the baby on the show?
You believe they won't let us do it? They said, well, can you hide her, be behind high chairs or sitting down on a table? I says, not Lucy. When she gets pregnant, brother, there's no question about it. You couldn't even say the word pregnant in those days.
Right.
They say, I had to say expectant. It was better for me to use expectant anyway.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a time to coincide with the birth of little Ricky on the show. So the dad and I paced the floor outside the delivery room. All of a sudden I hear Lucy say, it's a boy. And just literally jumps for joy.
There's a brand new baby at our house.
And he knocked the inauguration of President Eisenhower off the front pages. 16 years later, President Eisenhower was standing outside the El Dorado Country Club, and he said, was that the young man that knocked me off the front pages? For years, the people would run up to Desi and say, would you please sign little Ricky? And that didn't set too well when he was 8, 9, 10.
They used to say, like, you're little Ricky, and I'd go, no, I'm not. And so my whole life was about saying to people, no, I'm not who you think I am. They used to say, you're different. And I used to go, no, I'm not. we're just kids.